Welcome in one and all to another fresh shave. And boy howdy, I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off right now. I'm not going to get too much into the person that I'm covering today. I consider myself a music reviewer and music critic. Kanye West has said some extremely dumb shit and done some extremely dumb shit, and I'm going to be looking at the album rather than that. But as I've said, and as you can already tell from the video title, today I'm going to be looking at rap legend and controversy magnet, to put it like controversy addict. Fuck, he's just the living caricature of a controversial musician. If you put modern day Kanye West in a movie like Walk Hard or Get Him to the Greek, people would be like, no, the character feels unrealistic. It's a bit too much. But hey, here we are. Truth is stranger than fiction. As I've said, I don't want to get too far into that. What I do want to talk about the music, and why I do want to talk about the music, is because it's kind of important to me. I guess for a little bit of backstory, I started high school in what, 2007? And graduation came out in 2008. And where the world was at that time is kids were just starting to get mobile phones. That was starting to become a common thing in high school, where kids would not only have a mobile phone, but one that could play MP3s. Music went from like something you'd enjoy in the car and at home, and if you're really lucky, maybe your classroom had a radio. But suddenly, you had your own music that you could download from LimeWire. It wasn't even what's on the radio, although that was still a huge influence. You could have your own music, it's on your phone, you could play it out loud, at lunchtime, on the bus. Music became a lot more communal, and as I've said, graduation was doing big numbers in Australia. It charted at number two, and it was at number one in the USA, in the UK. It was basically top three everywhere in the world when it dropped. So, shit, it was just a soundtrack for growing up. And from there, I went back in the discography, Late Registration and College Dropout, and they are ripper albums too. And the live album from that era as well, Late Orchestration with the symphony backing, really cool. And I heard that before I heard anything like Metallica's S&M. I'm like, holy shit, you could take a non-classical music and put like classical strings behind it and really elevate it. That was a first exposure I had to something like that. So I guess all of that is just to preface why I'm even covering Kanye West right now. I'm not just fucking jumping on a name that's in the headlines. Just I may not come across as a rap fan, and I wouldn't consider myself overall a rap fan. But yeah, Kanye was something special in my life growing up, which is why it really sucks to see everything now. Not only the person, but also the music. I'm gonna rip that band-aid off too. I did not like this album. And it's because of everything I did like growing up that's just gone. And I must say, it got me at the start. Comes in, there's a lot more rapping, there's less weird spoken word stuff, less weird drenched in auto-tune stuff. And I thought that was a good improvement on some of his latest releases. But even still, why are the songs so short? The average song length on this album is 2.5 minutes. You go look at all his best material from the albums I mentioned before, they're all 3.5 minute mark, stretching into 4 minutes. And what I really liked about Kanye back then is he was an amazing storyteller in his songs. His way to not only craft a clever line, a good entendre, but also structure an entire story across the song, and even the narrative across an album, was really good. And that was my first exposure to storytelling in music through the lens of rap. Before that, most of the rap I listened to was probably Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park. It was new metal adjacent. I hadn't heard something like this. I hadn't heard of someone kind of telling a story. I'd only really heard that in some of my dad's music, like Harry Chapin, Jim Steinman, really good storytellers through music. But here it is in something modern, contemporary. I'm like, oh, cool, you can still do that. But boy, howdy, you know what you can't do it in? You can't do it in 2.5 minutes or less, that's for sure. And that's the problem. Every time these songs start to get going, it ends. Every time it seems like he's getting into something, it just gets cut off. His ability to create inspiring, entertaining stories is caged. You just can't work the magic in such a short time. And then after just the first few tracks, it falls back on old trends. I want a more spoken word rather than rapping, the excessive auto-tune, overall just less rapping in tracks. White Lines is probably the epitome of everything I hate in his sound. And while that might be two-thirds through the album, I've already been very much more misses than hits on the album up to that point. As for the beats, they're also riding the fence. There could be some instant classics in there, like For All the Love. It's got that sports arena hype track bounce to it. It'd be perfect for arena rap, which is where he's at his career. Well, before he wasn't able to play shows and gets cancelled from festivals. But, the beat is perfect for an arena rap sound, but the actual song is just shit. He's not using it to its full potential. And similarly, there's that old kind of cut up jazz club sound in songs like Punch Drunk. And I'm used to, on his older material, he'd really use a lot of that for, I guess, more look back songs, retrospectives, stuff about his upbringing. And he does that here too, but again, like, it's sub 2 minutes. There's no good story about your upbringing that you can tell in a song that's under 2 minutes, which is a shame because like there's little glimpses in there, like Mama's Favorite. It's really heartwarming to see him and see this fucking unhinged person he's become, but he's still putting a song in there about how much he loves his mum, and that's that kind of moment where I'm just like, oh, it's under the surface. The person you were is not completely gone. It's under the surface, and I just wish we could scrape off all the bullshit and get back to it. But as much as I want to do that, at this point, I'm convinced he just doesn't have it in him anymore. He's gotten too fucked up over the years to just string something complete and coherent together. He can do these small songs, and they're still witty, still able to make a funny, like, good double entendre in his lyrics and stuff. Songs like Preacher Man and Father are, like, really good songs, but they're just so few and far between. And, they're good in the context of this album. They wouldn't hold a flame to, anything off the first three albums. It's really funny that this, like, parasocial connection to a celebrity going down a really, like, unhinged path in life really mirrors friendships being lost in similar ways, where people have just fallen down the complete rabbit hole of, conspiracy theory and radicalization. And you always want to keep the friendship and extend the hand wherever you can, because you think if you're there for them, you can just pull them out, and maybe one day the real them will come back to them. But you can't let yourself also get pulled under. So you're always just that arm's reach away, and you're always got one eye on them. And that's why I'm even reviewing this. Like, I really didn't like the album at all, but every time he drops something, I've always got one eye on it, just in case. It's like, oh, maybe we'll get the old Kanye back. And realistically, I don't think we will, but you got to keep hope. That's a lot like dealing with friendships that go down the same path. I'm like, oh man, one day the old you could come back, and I've got to keep hope, but you are getting very embarrassing to relate to in public. So all in all, do I like this album? Fuck no, dreadful. Have I liked basically anything since graduation? Not really. There's kind of like the early Kanye, those first three albums, that's where I think he peaked. And there's middle, which is kind of the commercial mainstream appeal of where he's peaked, and then later off the cliff Kanye. And this is, not good. Not good. I do think that people who jump on those middle albums, because that is where he started using all the auto-tune and there was less rapping and stuff, I still think they gravitate towards this, and there's a reason it's charting #1 on R&B and rap in America, #2 overall, 3 in Australia, so it's still, again, hitting top 3 on the charts, but I think it is, that middle era fan base who still like a lot of the elements that's being used here, but to me, spell everything that's wrong with Kanye West as a musician these days. But, unfortunately, when he drops the next album, I'm gonna give it one playthrough, because hey, maybe that'll be graduation too. Unlikely, but you gotta have hope. You gotta always leave the door unlocked for your insane, unhinged friends to wake up and come home. But you know who's not insane? You, if you watched up to this point, because that means you at least support me in some capacity, and that is the sanest thing you can do, frankly. So I really appreciate it. And hey, sound off in the comments. Who's your favorite artist growing up that later got cancelled in life? I'm sure we all have one of them. too many people from that era are just problematic, as the kids say. Either way, thank you for watching. Tune in for the next one, which will be another rapper from that era, who is actually in quite the favorable limelight these days. So try and guess who that is. And I've also got in the queue Kanye's daughter released her first EP, so I'm going to be checking out the new Northwest EP, and that is something strange. Yeah, can't wait to talk about that one. So, until then, peace out.